Thanks for coming over. This is something that my fellow sewers and I do every Friday, so I hope you enjoy it. We call it Friday Sews, and what it is we talk about what we made last week and what we're going to make the week before. So there's another challenge I've been working on. I don't know if you guys have heard of Stephanie Canada. She's a vintage sewer, and a while ago, I think like 3 or 4 months ago by now, she had this challenge called the walkaway dress challenge, and that is what I have right here in my sewing box. If you guys didn't see the previous video I did on my sewing room tour, I am not about to show you Tokyo treats. These are gift boxes my husband gets for my kids, and actually these are pretty awesome. So if you're interested in like bean colored Kit Kats, bean flavored Kit Kats, and very strange treats from Japan, this is what that's all about. But we're not here to talk about that right now. We're here to talk about the walkaway dress. So back to the challenge. This dress is back from the 1950s. It was advertised as a dress you can start at breakfast and finish before lunch. So the idea was that if you needed a new outfit to wear, you would go ahead and sew this together and you could wear it for lunch. Whether or not that is true, I have seen many people in the challenge. I think they give you 2 hours to do it. Some people have been successful. But if you are interested in making this and are participating in the Sew Frugal 2023 challenge, this pattern is available free on the Great British Sewing Bee website. I'll put a link to that either below or above, but the Great British Sewing Bee actually has many patterns available for free download, which I didn't know, but you guys should check that out. Unfortunately, the patterns, as far as I know, do not come with any instructions. So if you guys know of instructions for those patterns, please let me know. But luckily I have the instructions for this, and literally there's only 5 of them, so it can't be that hard, right? And I've actually made it before, so we're gonna get to that in a moment. The pattern itself, it's like a tent. It's like a tent. You slip on the front, you slip it over the shoulders, and you tie it around the waist. One thing about the pattern, I'll try to put a close-up, if I remember, I'm gonna remember, right? Is that it's like a full circle. You cut out 2 half circles and then you sew them together for a circle skirt. And this pattern was too small for me, so I had to add on extra inches on both sides of the circle, which apparently I added too many extra inches on that. And then it has in the front multiple dust barts. That's a tongue twister, right? I mean, bust darts, and also, what do you call those darts that go in the front? Like waist darts, or, you know, front darts. And I also wanted to show you guys, since this pattern, I've never found a good way to trace out those darts. So hopefully you can see it. See, there's oh my goodness, this is crazy. I can't get this straight. Wait a sec. Okay, so there's this bust dart here, and then there's these 2 darts here. And I've always struggled with how to get those on the pattern, right? I've seen people like punch holes here and then trace it out and, you know, take on and off their pattern, and it just gets kind of cumbersome and difficult, and you end up recalling your pattern. So I actually made these little cutouts of the darts. So this one, so I have 3 of them. So this is that dart, and I have the bust dart too. And also, so I've got these 3 darts that I cut out, and this makes it super easy to just trace on your pattern. I know it's probably hard to see, but all you do is on the pad or on your fabric, on your fabric. So on the fabric, you take your little dart and you just put it there. It's pretty easy to figure out where these have to go. You might have to do a little bit of work with the pattern. And then you just go ahead and you trace it on your fabric. So I think I might do these in a bit of better material, because I've also noticed that darts are pretty standard sizes across the patterns, especially if you have like a full bust. Your dart would be a little fatter here and shorter here. If you had a bust, it would be a little skinnier here and narrower here. So I'm thinking about making some like cardboard cutouts of these, because I feel like I'm going to use them all the time. But so that's my little pro tip for darts. You should try it out and let me know what you think if you do. Oh yeah, you know, another nice thing about this is when you actually have these and you want to, let's say your bust, so my bust is like lower than the pattern always dictates. So when you do a full bust adjust, no, not a full bust, you know, when you lower the dart or raise the dart, these are also, I hope you guys can see this, I don't even know. These are also very easy to move up and down. So let's say your dart was here and you want to move it here. All you have to do is take this little thing and move it up and down. And then you can trace it and play around with it to where you want it to be. So I think hopefully that suggestion makes sense to you guys, or it's not too silly, but it does work for me. Then let's talk about the pattern itself. So I did a mock-up, and what the challenge was to use the actual vintage pattern, which Stephanie Candida has, and I think she was sending out copies to people, but I used the reproduction. And I already knew going into this that it had some really bad reviews because it's just cut very differently. And so so what I did is I made a mock-up out of a bed sheet. And so what happens is, it might be easier to show you wearing this. Let me see first. Okay. So what you have to do is this front piece, it has a little closure that you put on. So you just loop it around the back and you close it together. And then the back piece, it's one of those where it comes around and it ties. And where's the other side? I'll get there, I swear. Okay, so it ties in the front. But what happens with this pattern, and you can see on my dummy here, is there's this giant, or can you? This giant gaping hole right here, so that these pattern pieces don't match up very well. So let me show you. Maybe it would be easy. Hang on. I'm just gonna slip it over my head. All right. So I didn't make it the full length. So this is this part is the skirt. And that goes in the, oh wait a sec, where's, okay. Hang on, get my hair cut. All right, so this is the front. And what happens is, I don't have any pins, hang on. So you would take this and you would wrap it around the back. And then the back, here we go. You wrap around the front, so like that. And then it buttons right here. Actually, it's really cute, and it's kind of cute without the full skirt too. It's sort of a, a tunic. Before I got to that gaping hole, I just wanted to point out, see this? So I thought I totally screwed up the measurements. I thought I was making something that it's supposed to stop here. For some reason, I measured my waist and thought it was much more giant than it actually is. See how, I think that's what, like 8 inches? So for some reason, I thought my 8 inches on both sides. So I thought my waist was actually 1.5 feet wider. Maybe I was measuring my hips. And actually, you know what? I like the floofiness of this, so that's actually something else you can do. But onto that gape. So if you can see it here, oh wow, that doesn't look so bad. Maybe it's because I have a sweater on, but what happens is right here, I guess you can see that. Yeah, it's just, I'm a little too modest to be showing off that much right there. So if you do try this pattern, you'll have to modify it a bit for sure. And I actually already modified mine. I think I added a little 3 or 4 inches there. It's a bit tricky because those two pieces don't go together, so you don't want to have it flapping a bit. So hopefully that'll work out. Because I'm ready to sew the final product. Since this is more like a fun project, I wasn't really planning to wear this dress. I thought I'd make it out of some very strange material, not the typical material you would use with this pattern. And so what did I do? I dug out some organza. This, yes, this. I am going to use this as the skirt. So I actually will layer it. I'm going to have a layer of red in the full circle, a layer of orange, and also a layer of yellow. I think I have enough organza for that. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to make each layer a little shorter. So red will be the longest, orange mid-length, and yellow the shortest. And the good thing about this material, as you guys probably know, is that you don't need to hem it because, where'd that pattern go? Because another thing that you have to do with the walk-up dress is you have to put bias tape all the way around. And because this is a 2-hour challenge, I can imagine that takes forever, right? So my version, even though I have 3 different layers, I think it'll be pretty easy and I won't have to do any of that bias trim, at least around the skirt. And so that's the skirt. I'm having trouble figuring out, so there's the front piece and then there's the back piece that buckles up. Those are 2 separate pieces. So I looked through my stash, not my stash, I looked through my scraps and I found this. I'm thinking that I'm going for like this spring pixie dress, right? Or something that I can wear in the woods. You know, why not, right? I don't know. This again is a bit silly. So, and it doesn't really match, but doesn't this look like a forest? And don't these kind of look like spring flowers? So this is going to be the part, I have just enough of it to wrap around my back and then come into the front to be that sort of that belt-like thing. And then for the front dress, so that'll be this part, the back. It's just a short little part right up to there. And then, oh, she's mixed up. Never mind. The front part, I don't have a lot of material ideas for that. So I'm thinking this satin, not actually the shiny side because this doesn't quite match, but I thought the side that's a little more muted, I guess you could say. And I think that's going to be okay, especially since like this red is going to be on the bottom. So the color will actually be, with all these layers, it'll be closer to the that muted side of the satin. I think I might try the shade. I might try the shiny side, but we will see. So this is going to be a lot of fun, and I think I'll be able to pull it off in 2 hours, maybe 4 hours, if I have really late lunch. If you guys would like to see this, why don't you like and subscribe right now to see if I actually am successful. I also wanted to point out a book I received in the mail. I'm not sure how many people watch my community news series. It's a bit smaller. People seem to like it, but there's not a lot of audience there. But what I do is I highlight different sewers across the YouTube channels and pick out some favorites of mine. And what I did last time, I'll link to the video up there, is I highlighted sewers from Nigeria. They have a really amazing sewers and tailors and designers. And what I found is I did some research on the channels first and got some names together and then started watching their videos. And they do freehand tailoring. So the idea is similar to having your basic bodice block and then altering it from there. I'm probably going to I'll do a really poor job of explaining what they do and their technique. So I bought this book. It's called Freehand Fashion. And this woman, Chinelo Bally, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. She's amazing. So she was actually on the Great British Sewing Bee. For those of you who've watched it, I never have. I don't think we can get it here in the States. She was actually on, I'm not quite sure what season, but this is her book, and I'll put a link to that below as well, because this teaches you everything about how she and the other channels, the other people from Nigeria, the tailors, sew. And they make your basic block. And so they teach you how to do a bodice block. And their method. And so this is a very exciting book, and I can't wait to really go into it, because I want to try to make my own sloper or whatever they call it to see if I can make my own garments without a pattern. Can you imagine the freedom? Freehand fashion without having to buy a Butterick or a McCall or any pattern again. Why don't we just do it ourselves? So I'm gonna try it. I don't know if, okay, I have to pause there because I realize what I just said is never buying patterns again. No, that can't be. But what I want to do is stick to those independent, those smaller designers. I want to buy their patterns, and I want to start going away from the big four, because one, it's nice to support the independent designers, but I also want to do this. So coming up, I'm going to have to try to follow along with this book and see if I can do it. All right, that's all I had for this Friday. Happy Friday and happy Friday sews. And I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody else has out there. Thanks for coming into my sewing room. And I really hope you return, because I've got some really fun projects coming up. All right, bye.